Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pursuit of Excellence podcast, the highest level of personal training for youth athletes and helping parents navigate youth athletics. It is a new direction and a new season for the Pursuit of Excellence podcast. I'm super excited to share a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that is giving parents the information to help their kids be the best that they can be. This podcast is brought to you by Carlisle Performance Training Systems, located in San Jose, California, working with middle school, high school, college, and professional athletes. If you get an opportunity, please go over to iTunes and download the app. Subscribe, rate, share if you like this podcast. It would really help us, and we'd really appreciate it. I want to give a special shout out to one of our athletes who are crushing it in our training facility, and that's Pasha. Don't want to mention his last name. He knows who he is. Young, up-and-coming, rising basketball star. I've been working with this young man for about 18 months now, and his work ethic, his attitude, he's the same guy every day. He has a passion to want to get better. So I just want to give a shout out to him. Keep it rolling, kid. You have a great and bright future. Today's topic, titled Parents as High Performance Directors. You're probably thinking, what is that? What's a high performance director? And how's this topic pertinent to me helping my athletic child? Well, it has everything to do with you helping your athletic child. You see, in the field of sports performance, particularly at the professional level, whether it be soccer, rugby, football, basketball, they have a position called high performance coordinator. And what a coordinator is responsible for is synthesizing all the various disciplines that support the professional athlete, such as strength and conditioning, sports medicine, sports psych, sports nutrition, the actual sport coaches. That high performance coach is responsible for getting them to all be on the same page in terms of the direction that they're going with the team, as well as the direction that they're going with the athlete. In fact, many of these high performance coordinators oversee the sports science department as well. It's become a critical position. How does this apply to you as a parent? Quite simply, this is what you do. If you have a kid who is 12th grade and under, you're doing this every day. Your kid gets hurt. You're seeking out medical advice. Now, the kid may have, or your kid may have, an athletic trainer at their respective school if they're in high school. But if they're not, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you have to coordinate their medical treatment plan. You have to get them to the doc. You have to get them to the right people, take them to rehab, and so forth. On the strength and conditioning side, the kids in high school, maybe they have access to a strength and conditioning professional or personal trainer, or maybe you take them to a private person to get instruction. Or maybe you have a skill coach that the kid works with, that your kid works with, that works with them in the area of soccer, or basketball skill development, or baseball, or what have you. Or maybe your kid's going through some challenges mentally, and you sought out the professional guidance of a sports psychologist. Well, again, those are all things that you have to coordinate. And on top of that, you have the sport coaches that you have to support, and you have to help your child through the process of all the things that come with dealing with a coach. And last but not least, you're in charge of their nutrition, their scheduling, getting them to practice, from practice. In essence, you're the director of operations. So all those positions exist to support student athletes on the collegiate level as well as on the professional level. And that is a role that you play as one person oftentimes, or two people. It's a role that I've played as a parent. Me and my wife, we have 4. 3 of them are athletes. The 3, they were all concurrently competing this past spring. Amir was playing professional football for the AAF. Nye's playing collegiate basketball at Cal State, East Bay. And then Kamal was running high school track. So think of all the different things that we had to commit to as it related to helping them through the process. And let me tell you something, just because they get to a professional level doesn't mean that the support stops. In fact, in many instances, it may increase. So as parents, we're always there, and we want to do the very, very best for our kid. So that's a parallel between a high-performance coordinator for a professional sports team, collegiate team, and your household, and you as a parent, and the role that you play. As a coach, I've had 30 years now of experience. Can't believe I'm that old. But you know what? I've worked at all different levels. I've worked at the highest level in professional sports. I've worked at the collegiate level. I've worked at the high school level at the Lawrenceville School in New Jersey as a director of strength and conditioning at a private boarding school. And then I've had private training centers. We had 3 back in the Philadelphia market. And now I'm back in the private industry again, and I'm dealing with parents and talking to them and helping to support them through a lot of situations. That's why this topic is near and dear to my heart, because I want to give you the guidance to help you in those areas. I was recently on a podcast. Pat Ivy has a podcast, and I was asked about the high-performance model. And as I reflected on my answer, I thought, this is something that is highly pertinent to the high school population as it relates to the parents, to the middle school population as it relates to the parents. You see, when you're trying to figure everything out, and maybe you don't have a background in athletics, it can be a very, very tortuous and complex world to navigate in. Understanding all the different nuances that relate to helping your kid come back from an injury and so forth. I'm going to give you 3 things to think about. Now, mind you, I can't cover everything in one podcast here, but I'm going to give you 3 things to think about as a high-performance coordinator in your household. First and foremost, as I mentioned, you control the schedule. Number 1 goal is to do what's best for your kid, not only athletically, physically, socially, and emotionally. One of the challenges that I see is that kids are over-scheduled. And given that you do have some say in the schedule, I think it's important to sometimes take a step back and look at the week as a whole and see all the different activities and time that your kid may be committed to as it relates to practice, if they have a private coach, school, social. All these factors affect the athlete. So when you look at the high performance model in professional sports, the number 1 question that they always are asking is, how can we best serve our individual athletes best, as well as how can we serve our team best? So when you look at your child, I encourage you to put together a calendar and actually count up the number of hours that they're doing some type of activity and committed to, as I mentioned, basketball, a game, a competition, travel. All those things have a cost as it relates to the physical exertion on the athlete, the emotional exertion on the athlete. All those things play out. When my boys were coming up, everything was highly important. Got to get to this game, big tournament. Got to go to this, got to go to that, got to go to this, right? Their got-to-do list was enormous. And when I look back on it now, as they've gotten older, and the three of them all got athletic scholarships, I look back, I'm like, you know what? If I would have given them a little rest, it probably wouldn't have made that big of a difference. You see, the way youth sports are structured now, the demands are greater than they've ever been in terms of the year-round demands on a student athlete for just one sport. And we're talking about the youth level. Think about how many games a kid may play, your kid may play in a given year. 50, 70, 80, 90, 100. Think of how many games that kid may actually play, your kid, prior to getting to high school. Think of how many games that they may play prior to getting to college. And see, having had the experience of seeing kids as they enter college, as a director of sports performance at Purdue, the number one issue that we wrestled with was twofold. A lot of kids are coming into college injured. A lot of kids, when they come into college, they want to exhale because the journey to get there was so demanding that when they get to college, they have kind of lost a little luster, a little fire. Because let me tell you something. For those that do matriculate to college and they're on scholarship, it's not a free ticket. Take what they experience in high school and 5X it. So I encourage you to put together a calendar and look at all the given activities that they're doing. And I can say this with all honesty. If they aren't training for the demands and the physical exertion and the physical activity that they're undergoing as a result of a long season, they're more highly susceptible to injury. The second aspect, second strategy here, is having great communication across the board. For example, let's say your kid's in high school and your kid gets injured. Unfortunately, that's part of the game. And the kid may initially be seen by the athletic trainer. But in your heart, you might feel like there's a need for more extensive medical examination, a second opinion of sort. And that's perfectly within your right. But it's also important to communicate to the coach. You see, this whole notion of being a high-performance coordinator involves a lot of different pieces. We always want to have everybody on the same page and have great communication across the board, because if you do that, then your kid is going to benefit as well as those other parties, and they'll stay in the loop. There are great challenges there. I'll give you another example. Let's say your child's struggling mentally. I think it's very important to solicit the feedback from a sport coach about some of the challenges from their perspective that they see that your kid may be having, some of the struggles. Sometimes kids aren't competing to the highest level that they should be. And coaches can see that. Coaches see a different side of your kids than maybe you see sometimes. We as parents, we get locked and loaded on our kid, and that's all we see. Whereas a coach has to have a perspective where they're looking at everybody, unless they coach their kid. And we know about that story. That's a whole nother topic. But I think it's really, really important to communicate across the board. I'll give you an example. One time, my son, Amir, had encountered an injury, and this was in college, and he came home. He played at Notre Dame. He came home, and he was still struggling with the injury. So I called his athletic trainer, and I gave the athletic trainer a heads up. I said, look, I don't think something's right here. Rob, what do you think we should do? And Rob was more than happy to take a second look. He appreciated the fact that I involved him in the loop. And I think that those are things that are really important. And most of all, it benefits the kid. The third strategy, and probably the easiest, hardest thing to do, is that as a high performance director, on the professional level, they are looking at the big picture. And oftentimes they put together long-term strategic plans for a given athlete. And those plans may be a 1 year or a quadrennial plan. Let's take, for example, in college, someone enters in college. Most directors of performance training, they're going to put together a quadrennial plan for the kid. They'll do an assessment when they get there. And they expect that given certain benchmarks that kid reaches along the way, they will have improved their performance on the field in a substantial way because of the comprehensive approach to improving performance. So, what does that all mean? When you look at how best to put together a plan of action for the kid, you can't expect that it's just like a plant. If you went out into the yard and you planted some seeds, and let's say those seeds you planted with tomatoes, you're not going to expect the tomatoes are going to be ripe and ready to go in 14 days. You have to make sure that you're committed to the long-term development of the athlete, of your child, because there are going to be bumps in the road as they go. As a parent, I know I've committed a lot of resources to my kid, and I'll be the first to tell you, let's say I've spent money on my middle son, getting him a shooting coach. Let's say he's working with the shooting coach for a month and a half. And let's say I didn't see him shoot that much better. Well, I might be inclined to say, hey, Nye, what's up, son? You're going to the shooting coach. Why? What's going on? And I might interrupt the whole process, the whole flow of what the basketball coach has been working with him on. And then I start injecting my 2 cents in there. And then I mess him up because he's hearing different voices in his ear. So if you commit to working with someone or having your child be coached by someone in a particular area, give it a chance. Give it a chance to allow fruit to bear. How long is that? I can't quite tell you. But what I do know is that I've seen kids who, whether it be a month, 2 months, 3 months, all of a sudden that light bulb goes off and bingo, there it is. That's a performance standard that you're looking for. So I think it's really important to detach yourself emotionally from the performance, particularly as a parent when you're driving your kid to games and you want them to do well. I've been there. Oh, I want them to do well. And you've committed the resources, and you for us as parents, sometimes that's something that will consume us, is their performance. The more you can detach from that and be mom, be dad, is like we have a tendency to think that if we just say something, we got to just say something. We can't just sit there and bite our lip and keep it in. We got to say something if it's not right. And we want to fix everything. And here's the deal. This is what I know. I can tell the kids who get to college who have a level of competitive maturity as a result of being able to look in rather than looking out. And looking out is taking in everything that other people are telling them, and everybody getting in their ear. Like when things aren't going good, everybody wants to get into the kid's ear. But the ones that are really good about that, they're able to internalize it in a good way and be able to self-correct as a result of reflection, and then identifying what their weaknesses are and their issues are, having collaborative conversations, whether it be with their coach or whether it be with their parents. having collaborative conversations that are fruitful and meaningful that help to advance their performance level. Conversely, I've seen situations where kids they're mental midgets when they get to school, and it's just really hard for them. It's really, really hard. And you can tell it's really hard for them because they get bound up and they get really tight and things get hard. And when they get to college, you know what? Kids engage in other activities to release pressures and to release stress and so forth. And consequently, it just affects their performance level. So I've seen it from both ways. And that's why I share with you, not to impress you that I've worked at different levels, but to impress upon you that I've seen a lot in my 30 years of coaching, and I've worked with various populations, various sports, and worked with who knows how many different types of coaches. And I think that it's really important to emotionally detach yourself, if you can, from the resources that you commit to help support their performance as best as you can. Because at the end of the day, I believe it's going to help them significantly to improve their overall performance. I am going to leave you with these 3 things. 1, do your best to prioritize those activities for your child. 2nd, communicate across the board. And 3rd, just try to detach yourself emotionally. I think if you can do those 3 things, you can really help promote a successful environment where your child can thrive. And parents, as you are driving your child everywhere, take the opportunity to invest in yourself, invest in your health, invest in your fitness. Do things that are going to help you not only stay sane, but stay fit. It's important. It's important. With us as parents, we go through so much and we give so much, but we also got to give to ourselves and make sure that our health is optimal and that our health is not forsaken, and that we're doing things that help keep our body fat down and stay fit and to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with this. As we close, I hope that the information was very helpful. I'm excited about the shows that we're going to be doing coming up. They're all topics that I solicit from parents. So if you have a particular topic, please email me at Dwayne@CoachCarlisle.com. I would love to hear what your topic is and what you'd like to have discussed on this podcast. As I mentioned, please share. Please share. Go on, subscribe, like. That'll really help us out as we begin to impact parents out there in the world. And if you're local, come and visit us. We would love to have the opportunity to train your son or to train your daughter. Our philosophy here is quite simple. We're going to give you our best. And our best, we believe, is going to help your child to be their best. Thank you, and have a great day.